How dangerous is dirt biking? Is it dangerous? If you've never ridden a dirt bike before, or if you've ridden one a long time ago and you're just worried that it might be too dangerous, that you might get hurt riding a dirt bike, I want to go into detail to explain to you whether it is or isn't dangerous and what you can compare it to. So, if you don't know that much about dirt biking, I get asked when I tell friends or acquaintances when they ask, "What do you do for fun?" and I say dirt biking, they say, "Oh, so you do those big jumps and tricks on TV, right?" And I just kind of smile and chuckle in my head and say, "No, no, those people are totally different. What I do, I just stick to trail riding generally, riding in the woods, staying on the ground. I used to do some motocross, but I wasn't very good at it. I was dangerous to myself as well as to other riders. So it is not as dangerous as it looks on TV if you're used to seeing those freestyle competitions where they do the tricks, the backflips, double backflips. No, regular dirt biking's not like that. And if you watch it on if you watch racing on TV, the motocross and supercross and the stadiums or outdoors, those guys, uh, while we can do races similar to those, they are just on a so much higher level than the average rider. The tracks are set up to be much gnarlier. The jumps and obstacles are much harder. They're much steeper. It requires a lot more precision to do them well and not crash. But those guys are so far ahead of the average guy in skill and in speed. They're going so fast, and they're pushing. They're really pushing the limits, and that's why you might see a lot of crashes on TV, just because they're going 100% or more. They're getting paid a lot of money to go really fast to win races, so they're going to try as hard as they can, and sometimes harder than they can actually go, and that's why they end up crashing. So dirt biking in general is not as dangerous as what you see on TV. So just general trail riding, it's quite a bit safer than that. Um, is it? I mean, maybe you have a kid in soccer, football, or hockey, or maybe you play those. Is dirt biking dangerous than those? Well, I actually think that dirt biking isn't, and in fact, it can be safer. I hear of so many kids or people breaking their arm or leg playing soccer or hockey, especially football. You can easily get injured playing tackle football. And I'm not against those sports. I love just about all sports, and I played a lot of them. I played baseball and football and bowling, if you consider that a sport, but uh, just sports in general, especially the contact ones, can be dangerous. And dirt biking, if you take the right steps, if you start out the right way, it doesn't have to be more dangerous than the typical stick and ball sports such as baseball, soccer, and hockey. And um, yeah, so maybe you're coming from riding on the street, or you're considering riding dirt bike or street bike, or you want to get a street bike. I always recommend starting on a dirt bike first, and I really believe that dirt biking is generally safer than street bike riding if you're just a casual rider. So I ride on the street and in the dirt. I enjoy them both. I commute on the street, but dirt biking, just trail riding, can be a lot safer because you don't have to worry about traffic. You don't have to worry about hitting a deer on the road generally, unless you're riding some crazy place. But starting out on a dirt bike is more forgiving because you don't have to obey any laws of the road. You don't have to keep up with traffic. You can focus on just getting comfortable riding at really low speeds. And dirt biking is actually, it's smarter to start out on a dirt bike than a street bike because you learn you learn a lot more techniques to stay in control with the clutch and with the throttle. And riding off road is harder than riding on the street because you don't have 100% traction like you would on a street bike typically. So um, learning how to stay balanced and getting proper traction, those will translate a lot more into street riding as opposed to starting on the street and then changing off road. I know a lot of guys, they go from riding on the street maybe in for 10, 20, 30 years, and they're really good street riders. But once they hop on a dirt bike off road, it may be a motorcycle, but riding off road is completely different than riding on the street just because the techniques you need to stay in control, stay balanced, are so much different. They're almost opposite in some ways. So that's why starting out the right way, learning the proper techniques to ride a dirt bike is going to make it a lot safer. And then motocross versus trail riding, I kind of led you on that before, that trail riding is generally going to be a lot safer than motocross just because you don't have to focus on the jumps, whether it's whoops, staying on the track. There's a bunch of other riders that you have to worry about. So starting out, you do not want to do motocross because there's just a lot more competition, and you have to worry about other riders, the obstacles, and if you still don't have confidence like using the clutch and shifting gears, then you definitely shouldn't be out on the track. So it's definitely safer to start in an open area where you can learn how to use all the controls on the bike and then transition to riding in the trails. And then only then, once you are confident on the bike, using all the controls, the clutch, shifting, getting traction, staying balanced, only then should you go to motocross if you want to ride on the track. But I highly don't recommend going to a track or racing until you're confident and comfortable on the bike. So I'm going to give you 4 ways to make dirt biking safer. And the first one is starting out on the right dirt bike. This is one of the most common mistakes I see new riders make, and that is starting on the wrong bike. So what is the wrong bike? It's generally a motocross or high performance enduro bike. And so whether it's someone that told them to get like a YZ252 stroke or maybe a 450 motocross or enduro bike, they just say that, oh, you'll grow into it. You don't need to start out on a slow bike. But that's really a bad idea for a couple reasons. One, they're generally really tall, and if you're short like me, I'm 5'6", it's really hard to reach the ground. So it's hard to stay balanced. So if you're on a tall bike, you just have to focus on staying on the bike, staying balanced, coming to a stop. It's just a lot harder to focus on learning the proper techniques because you're focused on just trying to stay up on the bike. But 2, the biggest reason why a powerful dirt bike is a bad idea, starting on one, is that you don't have the understanding and control of riding with that much power off-road. 40, 50 horsepower may not be that much on the street, but when you're riding off-road, it feels like a lot more. If you're just riding on the beach or in an open field, it's not that hard. But once you get into the woods or trails where you have to weave around trees or rocks or cactus, trying to keep that 40 to 50 plus horsepower in control is really difficult when you're a new rider. So that's why a lot of guys, they start out, maybe they've been riding on the street for a long time. They get a 450 or a 302 stroke. They're like, oh, this will be easy. I'm used to 1,000 cc. But then they get on the bike and realize, wow, this has a lot of power, and it's hard to control riding off-road, whether they're wheeling or they're just roosting, getting a lot of traction. The rear end is sliding out all the time. It's just so much harder to start out on a fast bike. So started out on the right bike, which is a trail bike. one that has less power. It's generally an air-cooled 4-stroke, such as like the new CRF 250F from Honda, the KLX 230R from Kawasaki, or an older bike like the Yamaha TTR 250. These are all easier to ride, easier to learn on because they have less power. It's smooth, predictable. It's easier to use the clutch because they have good torque right off idle. And then the suspension is nice and plush as opposed to a motocross bike where the suspension is stiff. And stiff suspension is not comfortable. It's not going to soak up all the bumps riding off-road. So, and then wearing all the proper gear. A lot of people, maybe they use a helmet, but they don't use the boots, the gloves, the goggles, and maybe they don't even wear the right size gear. Even if you get an expensive helmet, the most important thing is that it fits right. If it doesn't fit, having an $800 helmet is not going to be safe compared to a $200 helmet that fits you properly. Same goes for the boots. So just always dress for the crash, not for the ride. Flip-flops and sunglasses do not go well riding off-road. And then riding within your comfort zone. So if you're riding with new friends that are already experienced riding dirt bikes, it's really easy, especially if you're a competitive guy or gal and you want to try and keep up with them. It's really easy to want to do that and then get out of control because you don't have the skill and technique to be able to keep up with them if you're like riding on a trail. So ride within your comfort zone. Don't go faster than you can safely control it, and that will prevent a lot of crashes that lead to injuries. And then the last thing is, as I mentioned, learning the proper techniques. So dirt biking, you don't just sit there and twist the throttle, as a lot of people that haven't ridden a bike may say. Dirt biking is hard. Riding a dirt bike itself, just in a straight line, it's not that hard. But once you ride off-road, through the trails, over obstacles, logs and rocks, uneven terrain, off camber corners and ruts and berms, just the terrain is really challenging. So you need to learn how to use your body properly. You need to understand how the bike works and understand what it's doing, being able to feel it. And that really takes an understanding of what the basic techniques are and then practicing them, learning them one at a time. And staying balanced on a bike is more than just staying up on two wheels. It's using your feet, your legs, your back, your head, your arms, your hands, all of them in the right positions to be able to stay balanced, to use less energy, to stay in control. And you don't stay in the same position the whole time. You have to adapt to the terrain that you're going on. So it's just a combination of learning all these techniques, riding within your comfort zone to stay safer on a dirt bike. So a lot of guys don't learn these techniques, or they learn some of them, whether they're self-taught or taught by a friend. You may learn some of them, but then you might start to make a bad habit here and there, and that causes you to ride out of control in certain situations. And I want to do what I want to do is teach you the basic techniques, and that's why I have a free gift for you. It's a 12 basic techniques to ride with confidence and control so that you don't crash. And this is a really good, quick, practical, just bullet points of the basic techniques that you need to ride with control. And you can download it at motocrosshideout.com/free lessons. The link is in the description below. If you just type in your email on that page, you'll get that free guide, and that'll get you started on the right track to riding safely and with confidence. It will make you a better and safer rider because you have an understanding of what the basic techniques are. And yeah, so if you have any questions, I'd love to hear from you. Do you still think dirt biking is dangerous? Have you gotten hurt? Did you start out on the wrong bike? I want to hear. Post in the comments below. And yeah, I look forward to making you a better, safer rider. This is Kelly from Motocross Hideout. Learn more, ride more.